Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Marks and I'm one of the people who are assessing your IDP drafts and helping you sort of to get them into shape. I noticed that in lots of the drafts that Dr. Reeder and I were checking, the part 5 was missing some information. So I wanted to go over it with you in a screencast just to make sure that you understand what needs to be included. For many of the students who have turned in their second drafts, this is the only part that is sort of holding you up from being proficient in all of your IDP except for the last two parts you haven't done yet. So I want to make sure that you're clear on what needs to be included in your IDP for this third and final draft. So where can you find these resources? What's missing in many of your IDP drafts is your considerations for learners as individuals. Now, for Dr. Clark's IDP format, you do a really good job of accommodations with your background knowledge. Those are those couple of paragraphs that you write after you have the raw data. And that's fine, and you can leave that there. But there are a couple of other things that you need to include that are on the rubric for the IDP in order to have a proficient IDP. So let's talk about those. There's a couple of places where you can find the information. The first place you can find the information, this is your website, is if you scroll down a little bit, and Dr. Clark has it right here, IDP Guidelines Part 5. So when you pull that up, this is what you'll see. And she does a really good job of giving you, in red here, some hints about what needs to be included there. So you can go through this, or you can go through these resources here and click on the template and that's what I've been using for my class. So I'm going to talk about it from this perspective just because it's a little more concise and streamlined. But both of them have the same information and both of them are perfectly acceptable. So do whichever makes sense to you and whichever is easiest for you in your teaching style. So for part 5, you're going to drop in your 5E, your Math, Launch, Explore, Summarize, or your ELA lesson plan. So just drop that in its entirety, and that covers a lot of the IDP requirements. However, there are a few things that are left out from these projects, and you must include them. So I have them here, and it's 1 and 2. The first one is considerations for learners as individuals. This is a 2 to 3 page narrative, which just means you're going to discuss it in professional language, in a scholarly tone, but it's just writing it as if you're telling somebody about your class. Now, some of this you've already explained in your narrative with your background knowledge. Okay, so you've talked about your diverse student population, you've talked about your accommodations. You might have talked a little bit about your instructional methods. However, that's where those paragraphs stop. And where you need to begin here is you need to talk a little more about your instructional materials. Why did you choose the materials? How are they appropriate for your learners and for this learning target? Why did you choose them over anything else? Then I want you to discuss 21st century skills. You've integrated those into your IDP, so I want you to talk about what the 21st century skills are that you are going to teach and assess. And I want you to discuss just a little bit in a narrative what you're going to do, what students are going to do. Okay? And then finally for this part, you're going to discuss your technology integration. Now you don't have to have technology integration in every single lesson all the time. However, this is the 21st century and you do need to include technology integration in some way throughout your IDP. And so you want to discuss the different technologies that you'll use. Remember, technology doesn't just mean laptops. It could be using an interactive activity on the smartboard. It could be a video. It could be an internet workshop. It could be creating websites, doing research online. It could be any of those things. So just talk a little bit about how you're integrating technology. And remember, there are 2 parts to this. There's the teacher part. How is the teacher using technology? And then there's the student part. How is the student integrating technology? How are they using technology in these lessons? So make sure you address both of those perspectives. So once you have that done, it should be a couple of pages. You want to talk about your classroom management plan. And this is just a brief plan for your entire unit. And if your teacher is using a positive management plan, then you are welcome to use that, and it's consistent, the students know it, and that's great. However, if your teacher is flipping sticks, flipping cards, moving a clip down, these are negative management strategies, and we don't want you using those. So instead of moving clips down and flipping cards and moving sticks, you can reward students who are on track, and you can move clips up, flip cards towards the positive, earn points. So I just want you to think about, make sure it's positive. The first thing you're going to explain, again, this is a 2 to 3 page narrative, is how do you group your students? Remember, Carol Tomlinson talks about differentiation in instruction and how important purposeful grouping is. Students are not grouped by location. Well, just because you're sitting next to somebody, you're going to work with them. You want to make sure that you really are purposeful in your planning, and you're going to explain how the students are grouped throughout your lessons. And there should be a variety of groupings. So there might be some whole class instruction, there might be some think, pair, shares, there might be some small group instruction, and some of these will be homogeneous groupings and some will be heterogeneous groupings. So make sure that you are very clear about how purposeful your grouping is for your IDP. Then you'll need to include some specific information about how you're going to manage student behavior. So I want you to think a little bit about proactive strategies. What are you going to do before the students even step into the classroom? Are you going to have exciting, safe, and appropriate materials? Are you going to rearrange the classroom? Are you going to assign seating? What will you do before students even get there? Okay, remember, one of the best things you can do in a proactive manner is to talk with your students before you begin about your expectations for them with their behavior and what the consequences will be if they don't behave. You also want to discuss some positive response strategies. And I mean positive because you want to try and help students get back on track. Rather than punish students, you want to remind students, redirect students, maybe move them away from the group for a few minutes until they get themselves together and then bring them back. These are positive strategies that just give children the opportunity to get themselves back together again and then rejoin the group. Will you be using any incentives and rewards? Sometimes in classrooms, teachers might use a marble jar. They might use tickets or bear claws or bubble gum, whatever it is. It could even be letters on the board where as students perform appropriately in your classroom, they earn a letter towards, a party at the end of the week. So if you're going to use some incentives and rewards, describe what that will be. Remember, you never take away something that they earned. If the students are misbehaving, they just don't earn something new. And then finally, you want to discuss any logical consequences. We know that logical consequences are really the best learning tool that students have for behavior. So think about your rules in your classroom and what would be a logical consequence if a student breaks that rule, and discuss that here. So that'll be 2 or 3 pages. So altogether, you'll have this section. It'll be about 4 to 6 pages, and you'll sort of discuss the nuts and bolts of your behavior plan and your instruction. If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, Dr. Marks, or Dr. Reeder, and we'll be happy to help you out. This is important that you make sure that each of these bullet points is included in part 5 of your IDP, or else it will not be proficient. Okay, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.